Hello, hello. We are live for another episode of Audiophiles Anonymous.
Hello.
Nice to see everybody here. Nice to see everybody in the chat.
Yeah, chat's already popping. It was live like 30 minutes early.
Yeah, we're 1 minute late, I think. We figured this one we might as well focus this on a little bit more chat focused stuff. So we'll be interacting with you guys, throughout the course of the stream. But we should probably kick this off with a quick discussion of some of the big news that happened today in the audiophile headphone reviewer world, which is kind of exciting. That Chrono from In-Ear Fidelity got his measurement rig up and running.
Yeah,
and it's the same one that we have. So actually, I should hold it up. Try not to. It's difficult. I don't want to take it away from its spot, but it's the same rig as this. He's got it mounted kind of like on a. His whole thing is for portability, right? So he's got it set up, I think, so that he can take it to Zeppelin and Co.
And stuff, yeah. Do you ever have friends come over and then come into your room and go, "Why do you have an ear on your desk?"
See, I mean, that assumes that I have friends, which I think is the first mistake.
And also, within this time of COVID,
yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I go to other friends' houses and just go see if they have an ear on their desk, just because
that's the first thing you ask when you walk through the door
nowadays.
Is do you have an ear on the desk?
Do you have an ear on the desk?
Because that's the barrier to entry for friendship.
And may I see it?
Yes. Where's your fake ear?
It's Van Gogh's, Elric. I think that's what it's.
Yeah, this one's Van Gogh's actually. Yeah,
there we go.
That's the Van Gogh ear. The other one is Evander Holyfield. Yeah. Fun. Is the topping L30 worth upgrading to from a Magni 3? No.
Yeah,
it's not like it's worse. It's probably better actually, but no. It's the same thing essentially. You have an excellent entry level amplifier that can power most headphones, like 95% of headphones. That's really all you need. So I don't. You're the gap from a. If it's better, that's the thing. If it's better, if you like it better, the gap between a Magni 3 and an L30 is next to nothing.
Yeah, I think go with what looks your preference of look, right? Aesthetics, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Actually, I think the L30 has a little more power if you give it like a specific DAC source. And then I don't know. I need to ask Chocomel about that a little bit more. It was unclear in the Reddit post about that, but apparently there's more potential power there. So, let's see. Eric asks, got any opinions on measurement fidelity? I'm not sure what you mean by measurement fidelity.
And
maybe,
I'm not sure.
Maybe in-ear fidelity.
Maybe how accurate measurements are to actual listening experience.
Yeah. We might as well talk about that because I mean this coincides with Kryn getting his new setup there from Gross. So yeah, it is the same one that we're using, and one of the reasons. I mean, he writes about this in his big, article about, the measurement rig and everything. But one of the reasons for this, and it makes a lot of sense, and the reason why he got this one specifically, apart from the fact that this is one of the least expensive industry standardized. I mean, industry standard is a constantly moving target, but one of them more standardized targets or standardized rigs is because the rest of us have it, and this is really awesome because it means that we have multiple different data points from multiple different sources for headphones. And I think it's kind of a big deal, because we've been doing this and we have a lot of headphones measured, and you see it in the reviews and stuff like that. But now we have not only that, we have we can correlate or compare the ones that we've done on this rig with the ones that Kryn has done on the same rig, and we're using the same methods as well. So, I think there's people who might assume that we're competing for attention and stuff like that, but I don't think either of us really see it that way. I just see this as a good thing because it's just more data points from that same standard, which means that there's more, based on that one comparable standard, there's just more information now, and that can only be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we have information as the goal, right? And it's always
Yeah,
a better thing to have more points of reference, especially if they're comparable in the same system. That's always helpful.
exactly. Yeah, and I talk to Kryn like on a regular basis, and like one of my goals for what we're doing with the measurement database that we're setting up as well is I want them to specifically be compatible with his, because I want everybody to be able to say, okay, maybe these guys don't have the headphone that I'm looking for in their database, and then they can say, okay, well, maybe this other database has it, and then that database is comparable with the other stuff that's on this database, right, and vice versa. And I think that's just better for everybody.
Rocky Fox asked me if he asked why I prefer which you recommend. Wait, I think you could talk about some of the tube amplifiers you've listened to and which you recommend, OTL versus transformer coupled. I've listened to a lot of the transformer ones you've actually heard too, Resolve, that I like. So I have the K and HA1A Mark II.
I actually haven't heard that one. I mean, I heard it like a long time ago with HD 800, but that's it.
Gotcha. Then I heard the Pendant. I've heard. I have the Bottlehead Crack. I've heard the ridiculous Woo Audio monoblock tube amps at Torque's house.
Oh, Tyler is super quiet apparently.
Oh, I'm super quiet. Here, I'll turn
yourself up in OBS. Yeah,
there we go.
We'll fix that.
How about now? Sound good? Test. 1, 2, 3. I was messing with my mic earlier, so I think it might be further away from me than it usually is. So let me do that a little bit. All right. Let me know if that sounds good. As far as tube amps go, I've also heard I have the Eddy Current ZDT Junior on hand, which I still need to somehow ship out to you guys eventually. What else have I heard? I've heard then a OTL, the Glen OTL. I've heard both the standard and 300B versions at ZM Festivus. I've heard the Euphoria. I've heard the Echo. Those are all like different demo situations. So to me, like I don't like talking about ones that I've heard in demo scenarios. But I think that between OTL and the basically like the excuse me, when you get the transformer coupled, or set. Sorry, I had peanut butter, and I feel like I'm getting peanut butter stuck in my throat. It's awkward. But anyways, I don't really have a preference between the two, to be honest with you. I like, I go with what sounds good, and then on top of that, you get tubes, so you can swap them out and you can kind of focus it in on it. But as far as my favorites currently that I've heard over the time frame I've heard them, I still have a very soft spot for my Bottlehead Crack, even though it's not quite as nice. I guess not, because I made it myself. I think that's why I have a soft spot for it.
I thought you say that's why it's not as nice.
It is probably that's probably accurate, because it was one of my first soldering deals, but it is decent. Like I don't have too much noise on it or anything like that, and I've noticed that sometimes it's just the tube being noisy.
Sure.
But I think that paired OTL, the Bottlehead Crack specifically, I love with my ZMFs, but mostly I love it with my HD 800. I think that's like this weird chocolate peanut butter or what have you combo
synergy.
Yeah. The set though I think is different. I really like the KNHA1A, but I think the Pendant was fantastic. Like I love that.
So Pendant was the rectifier transformer
based. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know for sure, but I know it was a rectifier tube amp. I got to go back into my notes for that. It's been long enough. But yeah, I think I don't know enough about the various different tubes, like push pull, set, single-headed triode, output transformers, all that stuff. I don't know enough about the differences to be able to like have some sort of hard and fast rules for the synergy for different headphones. But I do think that there are a number of pairings that would work better with an OTL amp, and there are a number of pairings that would work better with something like the Pendant, because the Pendant is not OTL. And I think it's just a matter of like trying to do a bit of research and understanding like which pairings are better. But in general, this is something that I have noticed, while they try and make it so that many of these tube amps are compatible with a wide variety of headphones, my experience has been traditionally that they're all best with certain dynamic driver headphones, like high impedance dynamic driver headphones.
Generally,
yeah. Even though you can run it with planars and whatever else, because there's enough power for a lot of them. And some of the some really high end ones as well are ideal for planars
Yeah,
too.
Euphoria comes to
It's
mind, to be honest.
yeah, I'm sure there's lots of really good pairings with planars, but just because like I think there's, and again, there's not enough information on this. I need to do more research on this to like know for sure, but there seems to be a prevailing wisdom that planars, inefficient planars specifically, really benefit from high current, and so for that you'd look at a more powerful like solid state amplifier that's use a balanced output or something like that. Not saying you need to run it balanced or anything like that, but there's a lot of amps that happen to be balanced that would be high current, and they'd be solid state, of course. So I think those are like things to look at and consider. Like if you're looking for something to go well with a dynamic driver headphone that's high impedance, like a 300 ohm Sennheiser, then a tube amp is probably a good choice. Whereas if you're looking at inefficient planars like an Odyssey LCD4,
good solid state, it's a safer bet.
Exactly, that's what it is, right? It's like a safer bet, right? But I think all of those merit research and trying to figure out like what is the ideal synergy for it, because that matters.
All right. Actually, real quick, I think they asked like which is better, the pendant versus the KN. I think that's really up to you. I think that's a massive gap in price. Like it's almost
it's like twice the price,
twice
right?
to three times the price. Another one you can look at is the Echo, the Euphoria Echo. Euphoria Echo is not right. Felix Audio.
How expensive is the Echo?
It's like $500 to $600, I think. So it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's
around $600 to $700.
It's a really good deal, and it's a fantastic little amp.
Yeah,
people love it.
Yeah.
I've emailed those guys and to see if maybe they want to have some reviews done, but I didn't get a response yet. So I'm still waiting for that, and I'm hopeful that we can do a review of one at some point, because the Felix Audio stuff it's been interesting for a long time. And I know Ant just got his
he's got not the Euphoria, he's
Elise.
got the Elise.
And so that's definitely stuff I'm interested in. I could always just steal Ants and then
yeah, I'm supposed to, once I get the T4, I'm gonna go meet with him. We're gonna do a comparison between the two.
Cool.
So that should be pretty fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But I think, hey, real quick, just want to make sure my audio is still good or not. I kind of upped it a little bit. But anyways, next question: the new T1. I mentioned that to Karen the other. Yeah, it's like the version 3, right? Is that what it is?
T.1 through T1.3.
Yeah, like
that's
Mark III.
What I saw.
Mark III. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wouldn't mind. I heard the T2, and I thought it was okay for a bear.
The T1 Mark II.
Yeah, thank you. T1 Mark II.
Someone's gonna roast us for that.
I am. Yeah, they can roast me all they want.
But, I have mixed feelings about those, because like the T1, like the original T1 came out years ago, and that was like the competition for the the HD800. You had two choices. One was the HD800, the other was the T1 for like high-end headphones. And in both cases they were just super bright.
Yeah.
Like peaky in the treble.
I find the T1s less enjoyable than the HD, in my experience.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And they are like like good headphones in the sense that they have good resolution and technical aspects, I'm sure, but the peakiness is just not okay for me, at least. But I wanted to mention as well, though, that somebody said it as well, like there's a 32 ohm thing.
The new one is a 32 ohm, so much lower.
I have to feel like this is just not something for the audiophile world. Like it's maybe for more I want to say like consumer oriented people who just want to spend a lot of money. Because I don't understand why you would release that with 32 ohms at the price tag that it's at.
Studio use, maybe.
Studio use is the other one I was thinking.
Just low power monitoring without having to worry about something that you can take pretty much anywhere without worrying that you need whack amplification.
But I do think that there is a push into the general consumer market, right? And then having something that you can drive off of a iPhone dongle.
Yeah, I worry that this is like a little bit too traditional in the like you walk into a store and try on some headphones sense. That they might have
Best
demoed
Buy.
there. Yeah, I don't know if it would be in Best Buy, whatever kind of
Well, there's
whatever stores they're in. I don't
makes
know, but
I think the Sennheiser HD series is in Best Buys. I think in their little
Yeah.
Not
Magnolia
anymore.
shop.
Only the HD 660, I believe. I've seen
Okay.
recently.
but there's a lot of like brick and mortar audio shops, not specifically like headphone shops. There are that too, but I mean, like you walk into a audio video shop that exists, right? Like there's lots of those, and they're bound to have a lot of headphones on display. And this is something for people who don't ever want to think about an amp and a DAC and that kind of stuff, which is fair, but it's fine, right? The industry is going in that direction, but I do think you sacrifice certain things when you make it super efficient like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So like
I feel like there's an inverse there, because like, well, the sound quality, if they were already looking for something that's particularly efficient, that they really care solely on the sound quality to begin with, if one of their priorities was efficiency.
Right, but I'm just saying, as far as the headphones design is concerned, like what do you have to do to make it more efficient? And that usually is somewhere in the voice coil. And that makes me think, like, I don't want to say it's a bad strategy, right? Because I think it's actually going to work out for them by doing this, right? They can make it more available in more places and more accessible, which is, I mean, that's, if you zoom out enough, that's just effective, I think, regardless. But for this specific like audience, like the audiophile types who already have their amps and whatnot, it just leaves me with a whole bunch of question marks.
Yeah, and then there was something we said too real quick that last Rhino mentioned, the Audeze new releases are all 20 ohm-ish, but that's also like planars too can tend to be lower, but then they require more power. So like,
but these ones, like the recent one, I think
the Penrose. Is he talking about the Penrose? Maybe
he's talking and also the LCD1 and the LCD-X.
But
those are all
designed for portable use, though.
Yeah,
so that's.
But I think this is like that, and the LCD-X is also meant for studio use and creators and stuff like that, right? So, and the XC back there, which is glorious.
Yes, that's what I meant. Like,
I noticed you put a light to it, so it glows.
Yeah,
that was really nice.
That's just my little
aperture light.
Amaranth. Yeah. I need more of them because there's clearly more headphones to light up. So. Yeah, exactly. I love that shroud that's on it. That's sick.
Yeah, the Aperture MC things. It has magnets too, so you can.
Yeah.
No, is this magnetic? This isn't magnetic.
I had something to stick it to. Just connect it to some Audeze planar magnetic headphones. Just yeah. No, I wouldn't do that. I would not. That's not.
Not worried about the dynamic piece of it.
But yeah, Chrono, I get what you're saying, and I do agree. It's just something that Sankar mentioned when we were at CanJam talking to him, and he was like, yeah, like people in this room, like at the show, care about this stuff. Like we'd have question marks about like, why are you trying to make things more efficient? But the rest of the world is like, what is an amp?
Look at Focal stuff. I mean, most of the Focal stuff, aside, I don't know about the Utopia, but like the Clear is dumb efficient. So is the Elysia.
Yeah, Clear, Elysia. Yeah. A lot of the Focals are really efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, but they do. I mean, I don't know about those necessarily, because I think they're also trying to. That's the question, right? Like, if there's no trade-off as far as like what you could do if you just said, okay, screw it, we're gonna leave it at 300 ohms. Yeah. Right. If there's no trade-off, then I don't see a problem with it. But
I wonder what a 300 ohm Utopia would be.
Right. That's what I want them to try and be like, okay, like what do we get here?
What happens?
It'd be nice to get some clarification as to whether they do it for the sake of efficiency or just because they didn't find any big difference.
Yeah, this is what I actually asked Megan during the live stream, but it kept cutting out. So I need to do a follow up and send an email and
awesome.
Yeah,
because I guess there's a thing, we always think, oh, but the higher ohm stuff, the scaling, what am I missing out on here if it's a lower efficiency, a higher efficiency?
It's interesting. I mean, because I will say, like, I guess the only way to really do it, like the Bayer stuff, you can do it with, because they have the same ones with different.
Well, that's why this was interesting to me, right? Yeah. You could, in theory, do a comparison using the Bayer stuff, and so far it seems like the high impedance stuff is better when you power it correctly, right? Yeah. So that's always that. I mean, again, that's why I think there's likely to be a trade-off, but we don't know for sure because we haven't compared it. So.
It'd also be interesting, like maybe the Focal stuff, because their drivers are so efficient anyways that they don't need to worry about higher ohm. Maybe I'm no engineer. I'm just
But I do think there is probably a trade-off there as well. I think both in terms of like weight and whatever other parameters are required for what they call the mobile assembly or the mobile mass, and I'm sure they're trying to get it to be what's optimal for everything, and then they and then they end up with a lower impedance headphone. But at the same time, I look at that and go, the clear is really low impedance. Like, what would happen if you just doubled it? And like, does that give you more space and more parameters for like what's possible with the rest of the driver? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Would definitely be interesting. Yeah.
Yosibum asked, why don't you review cheaper headphones? I think I'm not like the reviewer guy, so it's you guys, but I know Chrono's been done a bunch of them, and you've done a bunch of. It's just more recently we just had. I think it's just with Access, right? Like, and you just did the XM4 review too, just recently.
I don't know if that counts as cheaper. That's like
$400.
400.
And you did the 600 series too.
Yeah, I did the 600. That's $300.
650 is $220 with the HD6XX.
Yeah, and the 600 you can find pretty easily $300.
Define cheaper headphones. How about that?
Yeah. I'm not saying that the 600 or 650 are cheap. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that they're less expensive than a clear
ones.
Yeah, I don't think efficiency. Sorry, just getting back to the efficiency thing. I don't think efficiency is like the same across the board for dynamic driver and planars.
Yeah,
because
it's not the same.
You have stuff like the LCD. I mean, maybe at the high end, but like you have stuff like the LCD X and XC that are super efficient. Or actually, and even in the high end, like the HE1000 SE is ridiculously efficient. That's like, my phone has too much power for that. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't even have a headphone jack. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it's just so ridiculously efficient that you can run it off of anything, and it makes it so that on some amps you do get some noise floor because it's too efficient. So, and the detail on that is ridiculous. So, yeah, I don't think it's the same across the board.
The only thing I can say is that I was honestly impressed when I did hear the HD600 and 650 on the phone editor. Yeah. How much? It's like the thing is, right? Nothing else really improved aside from clarity, but the clarity did improve, at least in my experience, with this amp. Now I know that I've heard that there's a couple different amps that work better with the bass response of the 600 series as well as the soundstage, but at least for this one, it was like the clarity, and I was like, wow, that's actually really impressive.
The scaling is real, man, and that's why I want all headphones to be at least $300.
That's true. Like, that way, the potential for it to scale is a lot higher.
Yeah,
that's why Tyler loves the ZMF,
and it scales as well.
It does scale very well. I also love ZMF. So someone asked, like, what headphones have the most soul? Well, you know my answer to that one. So,
the Campfire Audio Cascade.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. Audio Quest Night Owl. I think behind me there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very personal thing too. I mean,
what is soul? I don't know.
Yeah, what is soul? I'm on top of that. Like, I think it's more of what speaks to the individual person too, right? Like, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, what's soul? What gets you grooving?
Exactly.
Right? Soul is a ham hock in your cornflakes. It's the ring around your bathtub. Somebody will get that reference.
Anyways, let's see, guys. Which headphone has given you the most soul in your experience? Which one has got you like, you're grooving?
Okay, we're gonna do the guessing game again.
Guessing game again. All right, guess.
So let's start by guessing Tyler's.
Because you think I was the easy one.
Yeah.
ZMF Vertic Lows.
I'm gonna say Aeolus.
Those are both good. I would say that yes, the Aeolus should probably be my choice as far as the most soul, just because it's the most accessible and also the one that kind of gets the most people, and it does have a little more. It has more warmth and more. I don't want to say engagement, but I guess engagement's a good word for it.
So is the soul warm? It's not cold.
Yeah.
Bayer Dynamic DT 1990 Pro.
That's an evil spirit. Not a good soul.
That one came out of a well, all wet and angry.
Yeah. But that'll also it'll it reveals a little bit like what you consider soul to be.
Yeah, I mean, I want something that grabs me, pulls me in. I want like that lusty jazz singer, or like, you know what I mean? I want something that's like, gives you some oomph and pulls you in.
Some soul.
Yeah, give me some soul. Give me some like
okay.
Yeah. yeah. Anyways, I think engagement. I think soul is engagement for me, and also the
Yeah.
experience of
I like that.
the experience of actually even holding the headphones. Like these are handcrafted. I mean, you have some on your head too.
Yeah.
But like it there's a passion behind it, right? Like you can feel.
Look at the
passion
Verite gang
behind it.
going right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm wearing an Ether 1.1, so
You can just said you were wearing a Verite.
You could have.
everybody would have believed it, but no, it's an Ether Flow 1.1. That, you know what, I actually like.
Yeah.
Actually, I did a head of the phone thingy the other day on the different channel, and actually this kind of speaks to it because I was thinking about that. I put on my Verite clothes and I put these on, and I think my comment was it was like coming home, like right, like it was like that, like I felt like, oh, this is right, and that would be, I guess, more that take, right?
It's funny you mentioned that because when I was reviewing the Diana Phi, I put the head to phone on afterwards, and I had that same experience. I was like, "Oh, this is my normal."
Yeah, that's my normal. Yeah, like that's.
But just for the treble, I meant just
okay.
for the treble.
Gotcha. But yeah, so I think we could let's save Chrono for last because I think that'll be a hard one. I think.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you wouldn't believe what it is. So.
So for most soul, that's tough. I want to say, because you've heard it, I'm gonna say Susvara.
I mean, that is my favorite headphone.
Yeah,
but...
it's either Susvara, but I know what the other one is.
No, you guys won't get it.
Okay, no, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Chrono, I guess Susvara. Your turn.
I'll say the XC is my guess.
Oh,
that is a really good.
It's right in my face too.
I can see him just there.
It's so good.
Headbanging while listening to
So
music,
good.
grooving out.
No, it's the
He's
Hi-Fi
a hard
Man,
jazz.
It's the Hi-Fi Man HE500.
HE500.
Because that has this nostalgia flavor for me that and it's still like, if I were to have a Hi-Fi Man HE500 here, it would compete with many planars that are out today. The only downside is that it's heavy and that it's a little aggressive. But at the time that was like, whoa, what's going on here? And the timbre's not that great. Like, it's sort of this dry kind of sound, but it has that nostalgia thing for me where, especially like when I first heard that sort of planar kind of tension and separation in the mids, and that then made me go, oh, this is why I love this quality. And then when I, after hearing that, I was like, oh, now I'm addicted to this, and I got to find other headphones that have this quality as well. And it happens to be just, a characteristic that's often found in planars, not all the time, but in many planars. I hear it in the XC as well. And it's that sort of speed that you get from it.
That would you like to call it?
Plucked character. Metal makes fun of me a lot for that too.
We had a discussion the other day. It was interesting. We were talking. It was a private call. Rusal and I were like, which instruments do we think sound better on dynamic or planar? Because I was like, well, for me, it makes sense that things like electric guitars or instruments that are recorded from a cabinet that already has something that is reminiscent of a dynamic driver.
Yeah.
That it would sound more natural in a dynamic driver. But something like acoustic instruments, which they do have naturally a bit of a pluck quality because they have that sort of a low end bloom and then that upper end tightness. That sounds, I think, better on a planar. Like, if I think what an acoustic guitar sounds like, it has more of that immediacy.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's like, I don't know.
I will say though, I definitely prefer listening to like more aggressive music, like heavy metal music and stuff like that, on planars, just because of how controlled they are in the lower frequencies during busy passages, and that separation quality that you get. I really like that. And whereas I often find like for example, the ZMF Verite, if I'm listening to jazz music, obviously I EQ and stuff like that, but like if I'm listening to jazz music, like there's something about these drivers that just make it sort of come to life in a really unique way as well. So I don't know if I would put myself like saying categorically dynamic driver versus planar for
any one
any one thing, but I do happen to prefer for metal specifically, I prefer planars, but that's just me.
I prefer a giant 18-inch woofer, and I just put my head right in it.
It's like
You can't see it because it's off camera, but it's true. I mean, you're right there.
it's like those you seen those videos of like people driving cars that have massive subwoofers in them that like shake people's hair, like make it fly off, like just stick your head into one of those.
So
have you seen those people who stick a drum kit on a motorbike?
Oh yeah.
No.
Just play while they're driving on the road. Yeah,
That's crazy.
That. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
Okay, we gotta
Chrono.
guess.
Chrono.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess HD 600.
Ooh.
Or okay, no, I'll stick with HD 600. I'll let Tyler guess.
HD 800.
That does have the most soul. Or it would have.
It's haunting him right now.
Yeah, that spirit is flying somewhere out here in the house.
Yeah.
Just creeping there because I kill the cables. But no, actually, Andrew is correct. It is indeed the HD 600. I mean, we started with Soul, but then we ended up going with this theme of kind of like headphone you come home to and you just enjoy it. It's just
that's kind of soul,
soul,
I guess.
Yeah, it does have soul. It does have the warmth and the bass, but it has like those very rich vocals. I don't know. I just love the presentation. It just feels it's strangely soft, but feels very accurate, natural, and just I don't know. It does everything I want it to, and that's why I daily drive it.
Honestly, I really liked. I did a comparison with the HD600 too on that same video, and like, it's amazing how good that is. But at the same time, it's also it rapidly gets outclassed, if that makes sense, by other headphones.
Yeah, Chrono mentioned it in the video the review as well. It was like.
Yeah, it scales, but there's definitively a line that is not crossed.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, in my experience, again, only from the Monitor, like the clarity of each like different individual tracks and passages like skyrocketed significantly when listening to the Monitor. Like I'd say it was close, somewhere between the LCD2 and Clear, which I think is pretty impressive for scanning. However, you go to those other headphones and you suddenly like, well, now I see that I was missing the instrument separation, dynamics, soundstage, everything else.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing. I was doing an A/B with it. I was like unplugging it. I mean, it was biased as all hell, and there's no scientific fact. It was my personal experience and opinion, but that's why I was swapping on the Monitor with it. So,
even though it's missing those things of the higher end headphones, I still love them.
They're fantastic. I want to use that too. So
to give credit, somewhere Last Rhino was really happy with that statement, but
he just ran out the door.
We finally acknowledged his headphone setup. But I wanted to mention as well, though, if you take a Sundara and you plug that into a Monitor, it doesn't get anywhere the same scaling as the HD 600 and 650 in those, right? So yes, I think the Sundara is better. Like it's an upgrade over the HD6XX, for example, right? It's $350, a little more expensive than the HD6XX, but like I think it's just categorically better. And then when you put the HD6XX on really expensive gear, it's, I think the HD6XX gets better where the Sundara doesn't. So that's the interesting thing about that. But what I suspect is that that limit stops mattering once again when you get around the LCD2 level or the Focal Clear level, where suddenly you can just buy different headphones.
Just buy different headphones. Real quick, someone actually mentioned this too. There's two things I want to jump on. Porta Pros with Yaxi pads are something I keep in my backpack at all time. Like it's an everyday carry for me because it runs on everything, and they have that same reminiscent sound to the HD 600s and even all the way up to the LS. And when I say reminiscent, I'm saying like the similar sound profile, not the technicalities, not the capabilities.
The tonal balance.
The tonal balance. And like, and so I think those are fantastic. And then they're comfortable as all get out. And I'm not worried about breaking them because they cost next to nothing. And they're just, like those are another fun one. And real quick, someone asked, and there'll be another fun guessing game for us, is the headphone that we think has no soul.
This is I love these questions. These are good. Keep them coming.
So that's a tough one. I'm struggling to think which one I think has no soul.
Yeah, no soul. So who wants to be guessed upon?
I have a controversial
first?
pick, but
I'm trying to think of one. I'm still trying to come up with.
Soul bass is soul bass.
Yeah,
He's a direct correlation
soul bass.
between soul and
soul and bass
elevation.
is not. No, soul is something that has character, that has like a its own persona. It's got its own flavor. In my opinion, like it's something that, and then on top of that, something that you can jive with, or that you can.
Should we say
Yeah.
the least soul is does it correlate with least enjoyable then?
Probably, I would think.
Well, no, I don't. I think there's still something you can listen to that's enjoyable.
That's fair.
and lacks unique character.
Lacks engagement kind of thing.
But
Yeah,
then
especially if
you could say that then it's an impressive headphone, but not a particularly enjoyable one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's very subjective.
You see what I mean?
This is
Does that
very
make sense?
subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind this is all subjective.
Yeah. This is tough. I mean, I don't have.
Do we have to be limited to like a certain price range?
Nah,
like
I think
at least
I say
just
go
any across the board.
across
Okay,
the board.
I
Let's
have
just
my
say-
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's going to agree with it.
Are we just? This is a tough one to guess. You're not
Okay.
really going to guess this, right? So this would just be a straight up. We just say what it is.
Sure.
All right. I think since you have it already, I'm gonna let you. We'll let you go, and then I'll
Okay.
let Chrono, because I'm still kind of like trying to think of something
Yeah.
that I tried.
Okay,
that
so
has no
so
soul.
my answer for the headphone that has no soul, or the least amount of soul, is the HE400i from Hi-Fi Man, or the HE4XX, like that
Mhm.
series. Now they are good, like
good.
for the
Mhm.
price, and they are technically very capable for the price, and they have good frequency response, but they don't have any character or soul. They're just like, yeah, I guess they're just I want to say somewhat on the boring side,
Mhm.
and not boring in a bad way, just on the like, it doesn't do anything that makes me really engaged, with the music. So it's a little bit controversial because I really like Hi-Fi Men's sound signatures and that kind of stuff, but yeah, I think that those ones, they don't have much for dynamics, and yeah, they don't have much for soul. I was gonna say the Hi-Fi Man Ananda, but then the soundstage on its own is something that does give you a certain amount of engagement. And then I'm also just correlating like soul with dynamics, which is not really fair either.
Is it dynamics in the bass, and therefore soul comes back to the bass?
And when you EQ soul into
You EQ soul. Shove it in there.
EQ soul into your headphones.
Yeah.
Well, there's times where I don't like too much soul, as was the case with the Aeon 2. So I'm gonna say that the Aeon 2 is the most soulless headphone that I've listened to.
Oh, but it's red.
Open.
It's red.
Yeah, it's red, but it's
angry because it has no soul.
It's just, I don't know what it is, man. It's a murky spirit, that is.
Yeah.
I love the Aeon 2 closed, but the open, man, I'm sorry, it's just no soul for me. I couldn't vibe with it.
See, okay, Chris
yeah.
says the HE400i blew my mind. The sound was huge compared to the HD650. So I would say the HD650 has more soul
Yeah.
than the 400i, but the 400i has a much better soundstage, right? There's
Yeah.
things that the 400i does really well. Like, don't get me wrong. I just think for that one thing that we're calling soul, which is like character, however we define character, I think it lacks that.
For me, there's two. I have a very controversial one. And it's very personally I don't think this would go with everybody else, but I'm gonna go with the one that the one that I think is the one that I'll say my controversial possible pick, mostly based on your boring statement. But mine is the LCDX.
Oh wow!
Oh no!
Yeah, I did not like that one. That was not my jam.
Well, but which version did you hear? Was it
it was an older one, I think.
Because that could be
also,
better.
but also, did you listen to it with Reveal Plus? Because like without Reveal Plus, it's gonna be weird.
I don't use that stuff, man. I did listen to it, and it did sound a lot better with Reveal Plus. But that being said, I usually try to evaluate without EQ, and that's in my experience with it. It did fantastic things, right? Like, and it did a lot of stuff. But for me personally, as far as like a thing that I would want to put on my head and listen to music with, it just it wasn't the thing.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember you compared it with the Ether 2.
I had a hell of a time. Yeah, and I loved the Ether 2. The Ether 2
I remember
like was that specific one. Then I think that one ended up not even working in the long run. The Ether 2 did.
That was the one that got sent to me.
Yeah.
No, it actually, it wasn't. There was nothing. It wasn't broken. It was just I thought that there was something wrong with it because of the way it fit on me. It caused that crinkle issue
Crinkle.
so
Oh.
significantly. Yeah, but
That's
it
like the
wasn't. There was nothing
headphones.
actually wrong with it. Yeah,
Okay.
it was just me, like it not fitting my like the contours of my face.
Gotcha. Because I thought the Ether, that one was fantastic at the time. Because I think it was also because it was so light, and then it was that one was very warm. That was a very warm headphone.
Yeah, it's like flat, and then just like gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything else was dead flat, and then suddenly like no upper mids and like yeah, maybe I don't know 4K.
It was just a bassy.
up.
I mean, it was just like it had that just sit back, relax kind of sound.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah. Anyway,
Was it kind of like an Odyssey then?
No.
No.
No, because he was comparing it with an Odyssey.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. But then again, the LCDX is like this really bright Odyssey compared to the other one.
Yeah, the Ether 2 didn't
That
have
was the
the
other
craziness up top, like up above like 11K hertz that some of the Odysseys do.
Yeah.
So, but it also had like because they sent me another one because I was like, well, this is maybe broken. I don't know what's going on, and they sent me another one, like, and it had the same issue, but it had a totally different tuning. So I was like, I don't know what's going on now.
That's the other problem. Or what's he called now? It's DCA.
Audio.
Yeah, DCA.
So there's this. It's controversy, so I'm not going to really talk about it too much. But there is a variance, it seems like.
Well, actually, I've realized the reason. Well, I mentioned it to you guys,
Yeah.
but like the reason why there's so much variance in headphones for unit variation, not all the time, but in many cases, the reasons for it is the pads and the material that's used for the pads and the pad design. And usually, the thicker the pads, the more potential there is for unit variation and variance, because this is such an important parameter for the sound that the more this factors into the overall tuning, the more potential variation there can be. And I noticed this. The reason I discovered this is because I was doing measurements in EQ with the different pads for the Verite, and to try and see if I could. The goal was to try and make it so that I could EQ all the different pads to the same tuning, and then evaluate the Verite and see what other qualities of the pads were coming through, like soundstage or detail or speed or dynamics. Was there a difference for the pads beyond just the tuning changes? And I did find that there were some differences, but then I also noticed, I was like, holy smokes, there's so much potential variation going on as a result of these as well. So yeah, I think that's the case for the Odysseys as well, and that's probably the case for DCA, because the pads there are really thick. And then and then also, like, if you look at those pads specifically, they're kind of like, I want to say like they're extra cushiony.
Yeah.
So like the distance that it would be to like anything
depending
you're
on the
measuring
clamp force and the
Yeah,
person's
yeah,
head,
yeah,
it can
yeah.
factor crazily on that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then on the Aeons as well, like for some people they kind of fold over a little bit, and like the position's a little different. So there's so much variability going on there that I think it accounts for a lot of the unit variation that you see.
Yeah. Real quick, Soul. They're kind of going back into the Soul topic. So we were talking Soul purely based on like. I think from my perspective, it was more of like a thing that would grab me and pull me in, and like that's my perspective on Soul for a headphone. I do agree with Martin that the soul is in the music, but then these, like, the headphones have soul in the sense of like how they engage you or how you want to listen to them and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
because if you have something that's perfectly transparent, like, again, that's a stupid word, but transparent in the sense of like you're not like, we don't have anything like that, but imagine there was a headphone that was like that just had you listen to the music, then in theory that headphone would be soulless. Yeah, but that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
Correct. So actually, I my controversial thing for soulless was the Utopia.
Oh, interesting.
Because I found that just it was super engaging and all that kind of fun stuff, and it was comfortable and it was a beautiful headphone. I just found it boring.
Maybe it's in the sense of it doesn't do anything of flavor.
Yeah.
Well, there's no flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has it's probably the least flavored of a lot of them. But it's definitely, I don't know, it just does so much. Like, I guess it's just good across the board that it's tough outside of staging, but like.
I get what you mean though, but that kind of goes to what we're just saying, how like if you just wanted something that you weren't listening to the headphone, you're only listening to the music.
Yeah,
something like that would potentially be the right thing, and I think a lot of people are looking for that for good reason.
Yeah.
So
I do think the SR1A, real quick, Tom. I think it does have its own little unique soul, but it's more in line with the Utopia in that regard too, though. In that it's not super soul-y.
and we definitely like it's worth like pointing criticism's maybe the wrong word, but like it's worth being critical in a sense of the idea that we're just listening to gear and not the music, right? We're just we're trying to find soul in headphones and then saying that's a good thing because that means that it's imparting something to the music that wouldn't otherwise be there. Maybe that's not ideal, right? But I tend to think that a lot of the time you can find something to love about both. You can find something to love about the way a certain headphone makes your music sound, and I think that's
that
because
home factor, right? Like,
yeah, and everything to do from like technical performance to frequency response and all that stuff. But still, like I don't think that it's mutually exclusive. Like I think you can like the way that something the way something makes your music sound, not just your music.
Yeah, I mean, there's some headphones out there with like defining qualities like warmth in the bass and the mid bass, or things like, for example, these HC650, which have a slightly boosted 300 hertz, which adds a what's it called? What do they call it? Enhanced tonal richness sort of feeling to it.
Body.
I like body too.
I mean, yeah, that's where body comes from in the FR.
That's where we're gonna put soul. Let's see.
Rubber Soul, man. Rubber Soul.
That's an okay album. No, it's my favorite Beatles album. What ZMF pads are the best overall? Are the Verite pads good for other headphones?
Yeah, some of them.
So it's interesting because I don't actually have all the pads. I only have like 5 of them. 4 of them, I think. And but of the ones that I have, the ones that I like the most, like even after EQ, it is still the BE2 Suedes.
I'm rocking the BE2 hybrids right now.
Yeah, see, I haven't tried those yet. Those look pretty darn cool as well.
The pad, this part you already mentioned, it's super thick. The pad here,
oh really?
Is very thick.
Because this is the interesting thing though. With the Universe leather, which is this one here, Universe Perf leather. The inner part is really thin.
Yeah.
And what I wonder is I wonder how much that affects like things like detail and whatnot, because like ideally you want this to be as thin as possible, right?
Yeah, and I know that because speaking of that, the BE2s, I know that
they're pretty thick.
Valentine Luke has a set for his modded.
Yeah, these are BE2s right here.
And so he actually cut the thick pad part out and did his own.
Yeah.
And then I think Rody did something similar, but I'm not positive.
I'd be interested to try that because like I think there's a number of parameters that happen with the pads apart from the materials that are going on. It is like, I think this does make a difference, this middle section probably, but then also how thick the pad is and the distance to the ear, because that'll affect, like the distance to the driver. It's likely to affect things like soundstage and whatnot. So I still have to try it with the like I wanted the Universe pads to be the best ones with EQ, but I couldn't get this to be quite as good as the BE2s. And then I still have to try the Universe perforated Suedes with EQ as well, which I have here somewhere. I just haven't built the EQ profile for it yet, so I can't really compare all of them yet, but some of them I've got done. Weirdly, the worst ones after EQ were the original Verites. Original Verite pads.
I like the Universe. I like the Universe Perfs. Is my favorite. With specifically the Verite opens.
These ones.
Yeah.
So Universe Perfs. So they would have been my pick if not for some of the weirdness that I found after measuring them. I found actually that because of the pads, only the pads, there was a bit of channel imbalance there, because it goes away completely when you use it with these other pads. So I think it just happens to be these ones. The hardest to EQ was the default flat pad, but I don't mind the way this sounds. This was actually my favorite originally without EQ. So I think that's fine. But when I was trying to EQ it, I found this a real challenge. I had like 20 filters or something ridiculous, and I still couldn't get it to match the target that I wanted it to.
20 filters?
Okay, I'm exaggerating, but like I had a lot of filters, and it just didn't. I couldn't get it.
I also think the Universe perf, like Rhodey's saying, the universe hybrid. Oh, so I like the universe perforated suedes a lot. I have the universe non-perforated hybrids for my Verite closed, and I wasn't they didn't really fit my preference though. But I need to go back and try them again.
I'd have to ask Zach about the like specific parameters that he's using for pad tuning, because again, the same thing with the leather universe perf. This also is really thin. The middle material is really thin on the suede perfs as well. And I wonder if that's a way of like, you can balance out the sound a little bit by doing this. You maybe use a thicker pad, but then you compensate by making the material in the middle thinner.
Yeah, because see, on the Auteur pads too, like the material's like ridiculously thin. It's like almost So
I wonder what this decision making process is for that. I should ask him about that. Like, when to use the thin material on the inside, when to use the thicker material, and what that difference actually makes.
ZMF stream number 3.
Yes, please.
I think he is down to do it. I've been chatting with him about it, and then once they get moved into their new headquarters, he said he'd be down to be more open
Sweet.
to doing that. So
sweet, that'd be awesome. Zach, if you're watching, let's do another stream. He would fit well in Audiophiles Anonymous. I think he's
dude, he's
sufficiently an audiophile, more than us even.
I was also joking. We might do a hobbyist show with him where we talk about just coffee. Just do a whole show just about coffee.
Coffee and headphones. I like that.
Well, no Glorious. Headphones, just all coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work out though.
Java only. You could talk about all the different coffee blends and the different what's it really called? There's like the coffee belts for different coffee regions have their own distinct
flavors and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
Oh, here I see. I'm just reading in the chat again. If I had to include the Odyssey LCD XC and Dan Clark Ether closed, how would those fit with a focus and I assume focus on soundstage? If I wanted to go close back, interesting. I hadn't thought about soundstage because neither of them are that great for soundstage. I can tell you right now, the LCD XC is more detailed.
Yeah,
like it's a lot more and it's more dynamic, more punchy. Like the Ether, actually, I like the Ether closed. I thought it was okay. Like the 1.1 or whatever. It's the one Chrono has right now.
No, I have the open. I have the flow.
Oh, you have the open. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. No, I had the closed, and I thought it was fine. I liked it, but the XC is on another level for detail. Now it depends which XC it is that you're talking about, because the old ones apparently were like ridiculously tuned. Like the tuning was not that great on the old ones, and since I want to say like after 2016, they like did a big retune on them. I wish Metal 571 were in the chat and could like fill me in on this, but apparently they did a big retune after 2016, and then they ended up with this one here and the newer ones, are far better. So
all Odyssey headphones had a driver revision in 2016.
So yeah, exactly, yeah.
See, I would go if you're gonna get Evan Nindra Singh, Mr. Singh. If you're gonna go Aria clear and then for open and then LCD XC as a closed, and LCD XC is your main one, I would actually go with the clear over the Aria.
I would agree. Well, actually, no, because it depends. If you're really keying on soundstage, Aria is like the best thing you could get, and then
I love HD800
or HD800 as well. Exactly, if you want to, But the biggest consideration I think between the Ether closed and the LCD XC is weight and comfort, because the Ether closed is a lot lighter. Actually, this is interesting though. The Ether closed has a lot more clamp force. And like to me, it was so much. I've got a large head, big head crowd. Chrono knows. And the clamp force was just too much for me. Like I couldn't wear it for more than a couple hours, even though it wasn't heavy. It was light, And the LCD XC, as much as it's like 700 grams, something ridiculous. It might even be more than that. I actually was able to get through a full day wearing the XC. So I think, if you have a more normal sized head than mine, the weight it benefits to the closed ether closed is something to consider.
Dude, it's storming hard outside. Oh my god.
It's sunny here.
The original question was,
I wonder if I should unplug the monitor.
is it getting warm?
No, it's just that you open the fonder and you get this intro sheet. It's all these. It's not really a how to set up guide. It's all these ridiculous warning about how you will die if you open it. It'll burn up if you don't plug in headphones correctly. It'll shock you to death. Everything will shock
that little thing, man. A lot of power.
Yeah, it will shock everything. It'll shock itself. It'll shock you. It's just like, oh man, it's a whole lot of shock.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the Beyerdynamic T5P second gen?
T5P.
So not the third gen.
No
T5P second gen is interesting to me because again, closed back, right? So like, you know, we're already in limited company. There's not that much for closed backs out there. So for high end closed backs. So
I think it did good for that. And then that factor, I thought it was fine. I listened to the I think it was Nestel and which one am I thinking of? The Nestel and Kearns version. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yes, I've seen that one.
Yeah. And I thought it was great for what it was. But it's essentially just I think it was just that was literally just a Beyerdynamics T5. Or no, it was a T5. I think it was T5.
T5P, yeah, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's see. LCD XC not an option, too heavy. It's a very heavy headphone. I'm actually working on trying to figure out a way to make it lighter. This is funny. I weighed the two I took the headband part off because you can get like a carbon fiber headband for those now as well, and that would reduce the weight by like 30 grams or something. But I weighed all the different like the cups without the headband. The cups themselves, each of the cups weighs 330 grams. So if you add that together, the cups together without the headband weighs 660 grams.
So each cup is as heavy as an HC100.
Yeah.
So these don't get mentioned that much. I don't know if I haven't heard them. So I'm sure one of you guys probably be able to comment on it. And I don't know if it's because they're just, I don't want to say overshadowed by the Verite Close, but the Icon and Atticus don't get mentioned too much as closebacks, and they are in that sort of $1,000 price range.
And they're fantastic. I don't have any on hand. That's why I never really talk about them. Eventually, I will. I do.
It used to be.
I think it's.
Yeah. It used to be pretty big. Like everybody was.
They were the jam.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Just gotta mute.
I think that's accurate, Chrono. Like they are actually, they get recommended a lot, and a lot of people love them, and they are fantastic. I just think that they're just not the hotness right now because the Verite Close exists in that lineup, if that makes sense.
But I know. But I think it's just a shame that I feel like it's a shame that they shouldn't be neglected just because the other ones,
new,
quote unquote, top of the line or new.
No, they are fantastic. I think, in fact, Elnric, he's had I think every single one, and he can give a better description because he's owned them for long periods. I've only heard them for shorter periods, but like eventually I do plan on owning all of them. But yeah, I agree with you though. It is a shame that they don't get as much praise now as they did before.
So yeah, that might be another option if you're fine with waiting around $1,000 close back. ZMF is there as well.
Yeah, ZMF does. And well, the other thing too is like they're closed back, but they're not they have ports on them, and they do have some. Even the Verite Close isn't the greatest at isolating.
The T5P is semi-open.
Okay.
It's a I think there's semi-closed, something like that. I think.
I think it's semi. It's kind of like the THXs, or the not THX, the Fostex, TH
909s
XX. The Fostex, TH Purple Hearts, the Ebonies, those ones. Those are all semi-open.
I think it would get more traction on those older ZMFs. I say older, but they're not that old. If the cup was designed like the Verite Close, we talked about this last time. So I wonder if he's got that in mind.
It'd be interesting if he did like a revamp. You're saying? That'd throw some controversy.
Yeah. Let's see. We did the Dana V2 last time. I'm just yeah, thoughts on 1266 FiTC. We've done that a few times as well. That yeah, we need to get them in to be able to have like concrete thoughts on it. Like show conditions are, you know, not good enough to have a
proper evaluation. Elric, I was talking about the Foster. I was talking about the ZMF closed back lineup. So the icons, those kind of thing. And I know you've owned a bunch of them, so I know like your take on that and why they aren't talked about as much now as they were when they first released, kind of deal for closed backs specifically.
Yeah. But I do think they're still great.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna. I intend on buying them all. So I mean, if that says anything.
Yeah, I mean, I was just suggesting that because there isn't really that much in that price range as far as closed backs, or at least ones that are really good.
Well, how much is the Icon? I think
Icon's 1,400. Atticus, I think, is 1,100.
Yeah, it's like around the Aeolus price.
And I think that's the other issue is because then it's like that whole like. HD 820 versus HD 800 versus HD 800S. Why would you get an HD 820 for like 3 times the cost of an HD 800? Or you know what I mean? Like, there's also that factor.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get a Aeolus for the same price as something that's been out for, I mean, it's not the same, but I mean, I think in people's minds when they're looking at things like, oh, this is a newer headphone, it must be better. There's also that factor to take into account.
All right, so. Here's a good question. What is missing in this list? Empyrean VC. That's Verte closed. Clear, Aria, Aeolus, HD100S, HD660S. What else would you get?
SR1A. I've literally owned all of those except for the Aria. Or I've had all of those.
Sorry, could you read the list again?
The list is Empyrean, VC, Clear, Aria, Aeolus, HD100S, HD660S.
What else would you get? Yeah, I would just go with it. It looks like you're missing
LCD
planars. Well, no, you got
Sysvara.
I mean,
sell all of them and buy a Sysvara.
LCD 3 or LCD 2.
Sell everything except for the VC and get the Sysvara. So you have Sysvara and VC, and that's the perfect combo.
I would go SR1A personally, but that's that's just me.
I would go, for me, if I had to think of like a again that term end game combo. Yeah, I would like the HD100S and the VC.
Stelia is fantastic.
Yeah, but you haven't heard Sysvara or an LCD4. Wait until you hear those, okay? And then talk about engine.
I don't want to.
Yeah, or an AB1266TC or whatever, like one of those. Yeah, one of the summit tier. The like prohibitively expensive.
I still need money for graphics cards, man.
That's gonna what, September 15th or something? For like
17th, and I'm gonna pre-order not pre-order, but I'm gonna put an order for 3080.
That's what I'm gonna try and do too. I was talking to my buddy about that yesterday.
I'm excited for that
because I wanted to get. So we both decided 3080 is the way to go. But if we can't get a 3080 and we can get 3090, we'll just get 3090.
Well,
3090 comes out a week later.
Yeah.
So that's on the 24th.
The other thing to consider is that apparently there's 3070s and 3080s with higher VRAM, because these have pretty low VRAM compared to the 3090, and that was the main reason to go for the 3090. Like for me, at least, I'm
VRAM.
Like for me, I'm doing
editing.
Exactly. That's why I'm thinking maybe the 3090. But then I saw there was some, board partners, who were producing them with more higher VRAM on the So I'm thinking maybe it's worth waiting if you're like me, like getting it for like video production. That's the main reason why.
But chances are at most you'll get 1 or 2 extra gigs.
No, I saw one with 24 gigs. There was a 3070 listed somewhere with 24, and there was a 3080. I don't know exactly what they are, and they may just
under their Chrono.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Or did you just flush the toilet? I don't know.
I don't know if any toilet actually sounds like that, but what I've seen is that some Nvidia designs, like they'll have
lightning comes out of
they'll share a very similar PCB, right?
Yeah,
and they keep the spaces open for the VRAM.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some board partners. I don't need 24 gigs. I know that because, well, not super intense.
Yeah. But I would like more gigs for more for video production stuff.
But not for your elite COD gameplay.
No, it clearly wasn't elite. Yeah.
Yeah, for me personally, I think I would go with. I'm gonna shoot for the 3080, but if I can't get it, I'll get the 3090. Yeah. But it is what it is. And then I probably won't get either because I won't be able to hit the buy fast enough or some crap.
Well, make sure your like case is wide enough for the 3090 as well.
I did.
That thing's huge.
It takes 3 slots, and it needs to be lengthwise and then like width.
The width, yeah, it's a thick boy.
Also, you're gonna need the power supply for that. I think
I have an 850.
750.
So Alex says the big Navi is going to be very competitive too, and that's true. Apparently, I've heard this as well. But the reason why I think it's worth still going with the 3080s and whatnot is, I mean, this is totally not headphone related, but I think it's still worth doing the 3080s for all the rest of the, like, everything is so based on NVENC and all the rest of the NVIDIA features that, like,
it's like Windows versus Apple, right? Kind of deal.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And
not 1-to-1, but yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure, like, again, this is just me speaking as like a video editor, producer, like that side of things. All that stuff, you know, Premiere works specifically with NVIDIA. Like that's so if you're working with Premiere, like you have
that's what makes sense. Now they have they actually now have creativity specific drivers that you can install
for the video cards. Yeah.
Well, but on the Adobe side as well, like they have like their Mercury engine is specific to NVIDIA as well. So yeah.
Yep. Also his.
Oh,
did we lose?
The lights just went out and went back on.
Oh, yeah, we did briefly lose you.
I
missed thunderstorms.
Basically, also historically, AMD graphics cards have never been the most amazing. As great, Ryzen is amazing. There's no denying that. But their cards have been a bit of a flop compared to the NVIDIA stuff.
Jay's 2 cents had.
I think they'll do a 3080 Ti probably next year. Usually it's like a year or two off, right, from the 3080 release or from the 80 releases. Or they usually do like the main one with the big Titan, and then they'll do like a year or two later they'll do the Ti, right? As like a stopgap.
Jay's 2 cents had a really good video about the AMD versus NVIDIA economic power games. Yeah, that's what I'm referencing when I say that it's likely that big Navi is also probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it will. I think that's why the pricing is so aggressive with the new 3080s.
Yeah, they probably
because they're like, we'll get you in the price then. Yeah, I think that's because I mean, look at all the people trying to sell their 2080 Ti's right now, and everyone's like,
dude, I've got to sell a 1080 Ti that doesn't have the shroud or heatsink on it or the fans because I took all that stuff off.
$50.
But apparently people actually would prefer to buy it with that.
Yeah,
like people want that for some reason.
Cool it off. Yeah, keep it cool.
Yeah.
It's
hello.
Hey,
hello. Welcome back.
I probably sound terrible right now.
Are you on your phone?
But I decided to take
Thunderstruck from now on.
Yeah, can we play the cello version of that?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I decided to play it safe and turn everything off. So I'm now on my AirPods. Sorry about the sound quality.
Sounds okay. Yeah, nice. 2080 Ti owners on suicide. Yeah, it's true, man. I was watching some of the different listings, and like some of them were like instantly trying to put them out for like $700 just to get that last bit of people that haven't noticed the news, maybe. And then like all the comments were like, "Good luck, $300 or bust." It's crazy.
I got a question that gets us back into headphones here. Is this as far really twice the HE1000 V2 in terms of? I assume you mean sound quality.
I thought the V2 was okay, but it wasn't great.
Like twice is like how do you say anything is twice? It's do you care a lot? Then yeah.
Do you have the funds and do you care?
It's really like how much do you care? But it's considerably better as far as detail is concerned. It's like even the HE1000 SE is a step up from the older HE1000 series. For both V1 and V2 by a noticeable margin. It's just that the HE1000 SE has this really weird treble bright tonality essentially it doesn't take it took me a while to figure out what was going on, and it's because it doesn't take concha interaction into consideration in the frequency response, so it doesn't drop down enough at 10k hertz or 9k hertz, and it needs to. And I know people were putting it on tube amps. That's another example of playing ours on tube amps to kind of fix that issue. But for like technical performance and detail and stuff, yeah, it's right up there, and the Susvara is even better. So yeah, I would say the Susvara is clearly a step up from those HE1000 series. HE1000 series, like that's like a little bit better than the Aria. That's kind of how I'd look at it. Let's see.
The amount of times I've heard concha interaction on these streams.
Yeah, but it matters, right? Like if you're looking at a frequency response, and like this part, I'll see if I can put it up on this part here, right? That actually impedes 9 to 10k hertz, and it's supposed to. So when you see, like a peak there, that's a problem.
Speaking of interactions of ears and sound, somebody, I think it was Valentine Luke, this was a while ago now, he mentioned in the chat that the shallower the pads, the smoother the FR. But I don't know what he means by shallow, but for me, at least, like the closer the actual driver is to my ears, I feel like the treble spikes up a bit, if anything. Have you guys had something like that? Like when you're like really pressing the drivers? Yeah.
So shallower meaning closer then.
Like the BE2s are shallower, like your ears are closer to the drivers
compared to the
like
universe.
Like a universe, or even like a
what I'm guessing for me, shallower would be that the driver is closer.
I don't know about that. I think a lot of it has to do more with the materials, and yeah, I really don't know about that. I think there's so many other parameters that factor into it. Like, I mean, the suede pads, as Zach was saying, they make things a little less peaky in the treble, but I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily better. There's because that's the other thing too, is like there are certain peaks that you will really notice, and other peaks that you don't notice really all that much. And like when we're talking about peaks, we're talking about frequency response, right? And like how you hear them, and like, yeah, most of the time people don't hear. There's peaks in treble, like no matter what, right? Like especially in the upper treble, and people don't hear those as negatively, or as it's not as noticeable as it is at like 8k hertz or at like 6k hertz, right? There's some areas where peaks are just like really noticeable. So it might be the case that a shallower fit on a certain pad might make those peaks less noticeable, less bothersome. But I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for that. Like I don't think it's necessarily the case. I don't know. What's your guys' experience with that?
For me, it's if I press the headphones against my ears, it gets spiky or treble.
See, I would tend to agree. I think the correlation goes more that way. But it also probably, once again, depends where that peak is, which one you're talking about.
It depends on the frequency range of that specific headphone too, right? So I think is it going to be, I think what he's trying to say is the closer you put your head, if you do this.
I'll try this, and then with close backs.
But like, I think what it is, you're bringing your ears that much closer to the actual driver, which means it's pushing it more into your ear. Like you're going to, I mean, I guess it would make sense that it's bringing it that much closer to yours. Think about the H800s, like they're when you actually look at the cup design, they're wide. Same with the head of the phone. The fact that they're so thick is they're there on purpose so that they can have that the driver has the space to move, right? So I think if you bring them closer, it would factor pretty heavily into like how that sound signature is.
This is something I'd have to ask Oratory or Matt Economist about. Like, Oratory specifically. I think he would. I don't know. I'm just anticipating that what he would say is that it really just depends on the rest of the headphone design and how it's like how the coupling works and everything. Like, I'll give you a perfect counterexample here, or not counterexample, just another example. If you take a Hi-Fi Man headphone, that's so when you for Hi-Fi Man headphones, if you
the mod where you do
but like almost all Hi-Fi Man headphones, as far as I can tell, when you move them away from your ears like this, the bass goes way up, right? So part of the tuning is factored into the way that it's coupled to your head,
how close it is to your ears.
Yeah, and exactly, and all that stuff, right? So whereas if you take, I think Odyssey is the other way. I could be wrong about that. I need to double check. But most dynamic driver headphones, when you do this, you actually lose bass, right? So it really, there's so many other parameters that I think factor into it, and it's not just down to how close or how far away the driver is. It's whether or not it's front volume sealed and all the rest of this stuff.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, But I mean, I like maybe there are some examples where when you move it closer, you hear less peaks, right? But I also think there's probably examples when you move it away, you'll hear more, or you'll hear less peaks when you move it away, right? So, yeah.
Well, they were pushing into.
Oh, the closer, the more neutral. The closer, the more neutral the sound of the driver. Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. I get what you're saying. For the ZMF headphones specifically.
That makes sense.
So and he's
Which makes sense with the BE2 to like the Verites, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the Verite pads. I'm just gonna use this one here. This is, I think it's actually BE2, but yeah. So for this pad, like the logic would be, it's a smaller pad, like a less thick pad, so your ear is actually closer to the driver of the headphone because there's less material in between. And then in theory, that gives you a better sense of the driver's speed. Now, I don't know necessarily if that influences like the peaks or anything like that. I think Zach would know better. But as far as like you're able to hear the driver's technical ability more, I do agree with that to a certain extent for the ZMF ones. Yeah, because I've noticed that as well. Like if I want to get the most technical performance out of the Verite, I hear that most strongly with the flat pads. And I think he's right. I think that's because it's closer to your ears.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't really see too many other.
Best sub $1,000 closebacks for tubes.
For tubes, well, I guess you can't say ZMF because those technically are not sub 1,000.
Maybe a used ZMF.
A used
you might
ZMF,
find one
if you can buy one used.
I have an answer. I think it's the Sony WH-1000. No, I'm just kidding.
Go away.
Could you imagine putting that on tubes? No.
Test for the headphone show.
Yeah. No, I could. I'm thinking the Aurorus Audio Australis, so their closeback version.
That would probably be.
I think that's actually the highest end closeback headphone under $1,000. I think.
Yeah. I can't think of any other ones of the.
And because it's that driver, I think does scale quite a bit that they're using in there. Yeah, I think that would be the one to go for if you want with tubes. Yeah. Also, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I liked the look of the closeback one. Like I thought that one looked great.
Looked better.
Yeah.
Aesthetically,
if that matters, I don't know.
If that matters to you or not.
Yeah. So something that's like high impedance dynamic driver.
It's what you want to pair with tubes, unless you have something like the Echo or one of the Felixes, or even the HA1A Mark II, something you can have like that where you can actually adjust or have a high or low Z, like the pendant. Then you could possibly do something with but even then you're gonna run into the weird tubey harmonics thing where sometimes they just get bloaty and bass heavy, and
I wouldn't run like the Aeon 2, for example, off of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can. Actually, that'd be an interesting experiment to do.
Off a low Z or like a
on 2 chords.
Yeah, off a low Z.
On tubes.
Tubes might help with the treble, right? Maybe.
Yeah, actually, maybe, yeah.
And
might soften it a bit.
Smooth things out just a little bit up top.
Anyone know why the Elegia got canceled? Nope. But I imagine they probably had it set for a certain run, and that was it.
The higher is there a closeback Bayer?
I don't know how expensive that is though.
Yeah. Because they have the closeback 770, right? Or the
T5P is semi-closed.
But how expensive is that?
The T5P I think is like $1,000.
Yeah, those are expensive. Well, relative.
Yeah, maybe you could have like a really high, really high impedance DT770. But really, like if you're looking for, it's worth pointing out the difference between the best closeback experience on tubes under $1,000 and the headphone that's going to reveal the sound of the tube. Like, you're going to get the most of the tubes, right? Do you want to get the best sound overall, or do you just want to make use of the tubes the best?
Yeah,
and I think that's a interesting question.
Well, it's kind of like the whole. That kind of almost reminds me of like, well, do you go with an expensive headphone with a less expensive amp, or do you get a 600 and put $6,000 of amp into it?
Yeah. I got both my Icons and my O2ers for less than 1K. That's a
That's a
great
good deal.
deal.
Lucky.
Fantastic deal. And you could find those deals. You have to just be patient. Like I think even Mr. Cypress on the forum, he talks about it all the time. He has a lot of really high end gear, but he waits and is patient and asks a lot of what deal can you give me? And
for headphone amplifiers, what is missing from this list? Topping A90, Questyle CMA12, Manley Absolute, Cayenne HA300.
Monitor
a
XC.
lot. Fonder. The
I've been
new Cayenne,
enlightened.
the HA6A or whatever that one is. That one's pretty fantastic from my understanding. A whole ton of the amps and sounds.
I don't know why you would.
Like there's so many missing. There's so
I,
many.
I would sell all of those and buy. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I would sell all those. I would buy
Adam.
a ZMF pendant. Yeah, Adam's.
JD slash Adam. Done.
Yeah, I would sell all those and buy a pendant, and either a pendant or like if you can find yourself like a DNA or maybe one the Felix Audio Elise, like some really nice tube amp for high impedance dynamic driver headphones, and then get an IHA6 for your planars. That's what I would do. Or something. It doesn't have to be the IHA6, like something that's like specific for planars.
High power.
Just kidding.
Bioelectric's fantastic. I do like that. They're supposed to be coming out with a new one though, supposedly.
Nimbus. Nimbus is their new one. It's supposed to be really good and really expensive.
Really expensive, yeah. Well, even the Bioelectric, the one that it's replacing is expensive when you look at it. So.
Oh, the
281.
Yeah.
It's replacing the 281. Yeah.
Let's see. Would the soundstage change on closebacks going with a balanced tube amp versus single-ended tube amp? You don't really see balanced differential tube amps. That's not that common. I think. Wait, didn't Shit Audio make one?
Which one? Differential?
A balanced tube amp.
They have them. They're out. You can do them. It's just.
But I don't know. That's so uncommon.
I don't know if they're truly balanced. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, it's just an output for the headphone. Like it's. I think most of the time.
Usually. Yeah.
But they're expensive.
Also, what was the question? He asked about
soundstage.
soundstage.
Oh yeah, so I asked about soundstage. So no, the answer to that is that I don't think balanced has an impact on that.
Yeah, I don't think balance will change soundstage regardless of the amplifier.
No.
Yeah.
Tubes will probably change the
Tubes will be the
soundstage
bigger factor
in a more significant way, but
if you had a
actual
balanced
output won't.
solid state versus a single-ended tube amp, the tube amp will probably give you more soundstage, like more spacious of a presentation. Let's see. All right, let's answer one more question. Nimbus 200. The price gap is too big between the Ananda and the Aria. Aria could use some price drop, but it does well at 1600. See, that's the thing. I tend to agree, actually. Like, I think because it's like twice the price of the Ananda, basically, and it's more that the Ananda's come down in price so much, and the Aria hasn't.
And the Aria hasn't.
I tend to agree. Like, if the Aria, I think the Aria should also come down in price. Like, yes, it competes at that kind of like $1,600, whatever it's at, $1,500, $1,600. But I think it could come down to like $1,300 or something like that to be more in line with the rest of their lineup. But the Hi-Fi Man's lineup makes no sense for pricing, and it never has. So I'm not
also,
too.
It would compete better with the LCDX.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's the LCDX
the package, whatever the artist package or whatever it's called.
The creator package. Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. But yeah, Hi-Fi Man's pricing has never been like, it's all over the map. But that's fine. That's just them, And it's mostly like you see it skewed really far in one direction and then also really far in the other, right? So you get stuff like the Sundara, which is like kind of is like a benchmark for anything under like $700. Like, there's nothing else I think under $700. And then at the high end, it's like their high end stuff is like ridiculously expensive. So it doesn't seem to be.
Shangri-La.
50 grand for Shangri-La. Like, that's crazy.
Need something to flesh out the lineup.
Yeah. This as far as it needs to be in the 4K range, though. I don't know. I don't think anything should cost in that range, just because that's like crazy expensive. But Sorry, I
Go
don't think
on.
anything should cost like in the super ridiculous $50,000 price ranges that they're at. But the reason why I think it makes a certain amount of, I could see it, this is far them pricing it at $6,000, is because, well, first, if they look at what else is out there, like the competition at $4,000, and the Sysvara is definitely like less compromised than the stuff that you get around $4,000. Not saying those are bad, like all the rest of the stuff out at $4,000 is awesome too, but for a lot of it, it's like there's a weight concession that you have to make, or a comfort issue that's there, or some tuning issue, something like that. And the Sysvara just is kind of just great all around. So if they think that's enough to make it worth paying the extra, or that people will pay, I mean, that's the thing with all this stuff, right? People are like, oh, it's too expensive. It's like, yeah, it is, but it's worth what people are willing to pay.
Yeah, I
That's
think
sort
that's
of
the
the bottom line.
Whatever people are willing to pay for it.
Sorry, were
As
you
far
guys
as a rabbit hole.
unfortunate enough to hear that?
No.
Oh, you guys didn't hear the loud beep? Oh, that's good.
Nope.
That scared the living hell out of me.
What happened?
Well, as you know, the weather's bad, so things, you start getting all sorts of warnings and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then this one, this very loud one, just came up while you were playing the Sysvara pricing. It just freaked me out.
Yeah. So for those of you guys who aren't aware, Chrono is he's in the middle of a hurricane.
Basically,
So, yeah.
you'd think I was in Louisiana or something, but no. Still, it's pretty bad. So that if I sound scuffed, it's because you're hearing me through AirPod mics. Because I had to
and
turn
you're in a
off
hurricane.
everything, and I'm in a hurricane because I had to absolutely turn everything off because the lights went out and I didn't want to risk anything getting damaged.
I see, Jack. I don't know about 6K Sysvara. I do wish that it was more like it feels and looks good, I think. But I can see, like if you look at like a LCD XC or like an LCD 4, those look and feel more premium. I'd agree in that sense, but you got to keep the weight down in some way, right? Carbon fiber,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, I could see that.
I think Tyler disagrees with the look and feel of the Sysvara, and I think I agree as well with that.
With
know,
Tyler
it
or
just
me?
looks- Tyler didn't look too convinced about the Sysvara looking and feeling good.
It's because it's not made of wood, but it is. It has wood on it.
Yeah. I just think it's just.
I don't know. I don't like the. I don't think it looks that nice.
Yeah, it
it
looks
looks.
that nice. Kind of reminds me of
Yeah,
less good looking Stelia.
Sysvara?
Like that colorway. I'm not a big fan of the colorway.
Oh, okay.
And then
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the colors either. Like, I wish it was just like all black.
Matte black.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
matte black.
and
But
then-
instead, they made it that like silver with brown and
Yeah, I don't. No, I'm not a fan of the
brown. It's
no,
like,
and
oh,
the
no,
and the
stop.
wood looks not that good either, to be honest. And we've talked
It
about
looks
this.
like
fake.
a
It
veneer.
It looks like a plastic.
Even though it's
Yeah.
not like.
Yeah, it looks plastic is all.
Is Chrono actually okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I am okay.
I mean, I assume
Thank you.
so.
You're just talking
He was-
normally. You're
Yeah. Don't worry, he's fine. He'll be back to breaking HD800Ss in no time.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. Yeah, that's gonna happen pretty
He's
soon.
got a pile of them in the corner. He's just
I'll make a-
clipping the connectors.
A
He's got
tutorials
pliers.
in the works. Tutorials in the works, guys. Tutorials in the
how,
works.
how to break an HD800 series headphone.
Yeah, carbon
Brought to
fiber
you by
stuff
the
would be
headphone
good.
show.
Yeah, see, if the Sysvara had the build quality of the Utopia, I'd be more impressed.
I could see that.
That's
Carbon
one thing too,
fiber-
though. If I was to pick between a Sysvara or Utopia, and I know that the Sysvara carries more weight as far as sounding, whatever you want to say, I'd actually honestly probably pick a Utopia over a Sysvara personally. Even
But that's
though
just
I'm
because it's from Focal.
and I also like Focal better. But yeah.
Just
Plus, like,
I mean, it's not even. I'm
No,
showing my
these-
biasses too, though. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
We're not
openly-
wearing our
I'm gonna
Focal
wear
shirts.
it. I'm
Well,
gonna wear my
there's a
bias
double-
on my
there's-
sleeve, but yeah.
There's double bias here. Is that one of them is Focal, and two, the other one's Hi-Fi Man. If it was,
Yeah.
if the other one wasn't Hi-Fi
and one of
Man,
them is a
it'd be
planar
lot-
and one's a dynamic, and we know
Yeah.
Tyler
Don't
prefers
worry though,
dynamics.
Hi-Fi Man will soon be refreshing
Oh,
their
yeah?
lineup with the sweet HER10.
Which actually, I was thinking
So-
about this too, right? So the dynamic one, that specific dynamic one, if you look at it and you look at the icon from ZMF, they have
Yeah.
a similar cup shape, and they're both using biocellulose drivers, as I recall. And I'm beginning to wonder.
they're both similar to the R10 in that regard.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like, why wouldn't? And then why would I do that when I can just go get a ZMF? I don't know. Unless it sounds.
It's a good point. No, seriously, it's a good. It's really like I'm right there with you, man. Like we have to hear it, right?
Yeah, we have to hear it
know.
first. But I mean,
but I tend to agree. Like there's, that's a challenging market to get into with that design.
With that design, especially, yeah.
Yeah, that's the first. That's actually the very first thing I saw it when we were kind of memeing on it, and the first thing that came to mind was well, at that price, I'd just go for an icon personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. Like, or
an Atticus, right?
Atticus,
depending on
yeah.
Or just say F it and get an Aeolus or a tour, or like, I mean, you could.
Well, the advantage is close back.
Close back, of course. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just funny to me.
Yeah,
Clear Pros are fantastic looking. Go ahead. Sorry.
Don't spend more money on neutral amps. They can be had for cheap if you don't need balanced. The Heresy is good. I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. Like neutral in the sense of ASR likes it. Yeah, you can get stuff that ASR likes for very, very cheap.
$100 done.
Yeah.
I have this thing. This thing's fantastic. Little shit hell.
Yeah. L30 is sitting behind me right now.
I think the GDSI's Atom's fantastic. I mentioned a lot in the videos. It's just that.
And the Heresy's right here as well.
I have this still. I need to hook up and play with, but it's just supposed to be a THX clone.
What is that?
Something that Ant sent me.
The top one or the bottom one?
The bottom. Well, top one's iffy. DAC.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry.
Oh, is that monoprice?
No, this is like the Chinese one. It's the Chinese knockoff of the It's AM01, but it's essentially a THX THX amp that they just knocked off. It's a monoprice knockoff. It's the 887 knockoff, I think, is what. Yeah,
that's monoprice. 887 is a monoprice.
So it's a double knockoff.
It's a double knockoff, and then it has 4.4 Pentacon, and like it's got the balance, and it's light and tiny, and Ant added the giant knob to it.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question for Tyler. How do the ZMFs compare to Focal Clear and the Aria?
I haven't heard the Aria outside of I can't talk on the Aria, but as far as the Clear to specifically the Clear to a ZMF, which ZMF, if you want to say Aeolus, the Aeolus is warmer, has a deeper lows, more warmth to it in the mids, has more soul.
Well, which ZMFs?
So if we're talking Aeolus, I chose Aeolus over Clear. I had Clears. I ended up selling my Clears because my Aeolus did everything that the Clears did, more or less. The Clears had better technicalities, but the Aeolus was right there, and I preferred everything about them outside of
that. I think like that's like the big comparison that people love to make always with like the Focal Clear is the Auteur.
Oh,
and it's been like that for a long time, and I think they're so different, but they're both they're both excellent.
Yeah,
and like if you want soundstage and
a ZMF,
like that, and timbre and all that stuff, the Auteur. If you want technicalities, details, and speed,
and imaging, like the imaging in the sense of like it's crisp imaging,
then the Clear. But both have decent dynamics. I'd say more dynamics on the Clear though. Like I think
they're faster for sure.
Yeah. But they're both great, I think.
All right. I've powered up the command center again.
Your VU meters are running.
And with that, we've been going for an hour and a half. We should probably end.
Yeah. Well, let Chrono
right when I
hide in his corner.
To my command station.
You have homework to do.
Homework? What?
I actually don't know if he has homework. I would assume it's pretty early in the school year.
I was
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any Rex for Grado Hemp?
Who
Not
bought
for me,
some?
unfortunately.
Someone bought one of those. I can't remember who. I think it was Lost bought one, but I don't know if he actually ever got it or talked about it.
Someone says balanced is just more power.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing. Like we've talked about this in the past, but like if you have a balanced amplifier, like you bought an amplifier that is a properly balanced amplifier, make use of the balanced output, not because balanced is better, but because that amp was specifically designed for balanced.
Yes.
So
They
it's
put
not
more
it's not-
effort into the balance.
so the transformer that's being used there is meant for the
Yeah.
balanced output first and foremost. There's somewhere it's totally fine
Yeah.
between
I think
two,
the
but
phonitor is
yeah, the phonitor is
similar.
not that different.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's no major difference.
but there's a lot of amps out there where it's like
think
it's a balanced amp with like a
most others are.
like a single ended just like attached on there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll just cheap.
Yeah, and then but yeah, realistically, balance is just more. It just
crap,
gives you. It just gives you more power, but
Mhm.
the design of the amplifier, if it's a balanced amp, is meant for the balanced output first and foremost. What else? All right, one more question here. What matters most, synergy or measurement?
Synergy.
I don't quite know what that means.
I'm gonna say synergy.
Oh, like
a DAC to,
yeah.
to amp to the headphone. I would 100% say synergy would be the
yeah, and I'm gonna completely agree with that. Not because like I value the measurement stuff, but I don't think you can look at like okay, the L30 measures incredibly well, right? According on ASR, like it measures really well, but it also sounds pretty weak for some headphones and some setups. Like it's not the best. It's not a good synergy where the Magni Heresy
Are we
may be
talking
better.
measurements, tonal, frequency response of the headphone, or are we
I
talking
assumed he meant
measurements
of the
assuming that
DACs and amps.
PhD, SINAD kind of
Yeah, I
stuff?
think he meant
that's
Synad. Yeah,
multiple different. Like, yeah, if you could talk about the headphones to the amps to the DACs, I mean, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's why I
So
think it's
I-
easier just to say
yeah.
synergy.
I tend to say synergy as well because you can. That's the other thing. It's like a tube amp's never going to measure well, but it might be exactly right for.
We don't dive into that drama, but yeah.
Oh no! Yes, I did see it. That we should talk about that.
Juicy.
That was
Don't
great.
die, Chrono.
Bad timing too for
Don't worry, I'm
or
Yeah.
like, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but like that whole crazy drama between the
You're talking about Marvy versus Amir?
yeah. And then he did that. He measured a bottlehead crack, and it's like, why would you?
What are you doing, man?
Yeah, why? Like
So yeah. So I've actually I'm gonna I wanna extend an olive branch to the measurement crowd a little bit because I think there's valuable stuff there to be gained for everybody. But what I don't like is the dogma and the zealotry that exists in many of those communities. So it's not necessarily the people who are running those communities, but there's this sort of like attachment to measurements in ways that are unhealthy.
There's the weird cult-like mentality of like people that haven't even heard these things that are now latched on to this, and they form these opinions and biases, strong biases, and that's just never a good. Have your own mind, my man. Like do your own thing.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with all forums. Inevitably, I think that there seems to be a collective. Let's call it collective consciousness.
Hive mind,
right?
Hive mind.
I did not want to use that word, but yes, the hive mind. That's why I actually stay away from forums altogether. That's why you'll never see me online. It's not because I'm anti-social, it's just because it can get pretty toxic and it can be misleading.
And if anybody wants to find Chrono's EQ profiles, they're on the Headphone Community Forum.
Well, either that, or I mean,
Liburn.
Yeah.
Well, we're also going to post some. Hey guys, any suggestions? I'm reading the.
No, you're good. We're just giving you crap.
Yeah. But so on that subject though, I mean, so if anybody isn't aware, Marvy from SBAF did a big let's say expose on
expose. That's a good word
on
for it.
the things that are wrong with ASR, and used a number of examples and is continuing to do more. And so here's the thing. Like I don't know enough about that stuff, like the amp and DAC measurement stuff. I'm not in that community, that world, right? Like it's headphones is one thing, but like for me, that's I don't really get into the amps and DAC measurement stuff all that much.
I'm not an engineer, so I always ask the people that are engineers their opinions.
Exactly, yeah. But so this is the thing. Talking to, I don't want to put Matt Economist's word in public, but talking to like a number of people, it seems like apart from the general tone that people have in this, which is a little bit combative.
Yeah, very combative.
There's a productive discourse somewhere hiding in the background there. So it's worth. I think it's worth reading both sides to this.
What's Amir's website? Is it Audio?
I don't know. Audio Science Review. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's apparently something interesting there. going on as far as like the discussion's concerned. So it's probably worth getting into if you can get past the
dogma and the craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And there's another factor though, is I think there's sometimes, and this is the part that gets me a lot of times. Yeah, the JBL 305 test. Like, but even the bottlehead crack test, man. Like, so, and this is the thing, and I'm gonna probably color myself in some level here. In that, like,
color it purple.
Color it purple.
Color myself purple.
Color myself purple. But I mean, I think that there's something like when people talk about things and like, oh, I do not hear this thing, right? But then there's like literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that do hear that thing, and you saying because I didn't hear it, it's false. That makes me question, if that makes sense, right? Like, so
which part of it do you question? Do you question the 1,000 people or
here,
the person who
the one person that says I don't hear the thing? Yeah,
right.
And then it's like, but then there's all these other people, and it's that's I don't know. To me, like. That is when I think of it as now you're being biased and you're purposely saying things just to get a rise out of people sometimes.
So along that line, I mean, I think there's reasons for
I'm trying to
both.
be PC here, so
No, yeah, for sure, you're good. I know what you mean. But the thing is, though, like you'll see, and we were talking about Hive Mind earlier, but like you'll see people on a number of forums talking about convincing themselves of things. I've run into this a lot on HeadFi, right? And I love HeadFi; they're great. I won't just say that. Don't worry, I'm not talking down on them or anything. But like some of the community people there that I've talked to, they can, and there's a little bit of that sort of fanaticism that exists there as well. Not necessarily for
it goes
anything.
Both ways. It goes the I guess. You could say, like, I always joke, I joke about the Hyperman versus ZMF or the dynamic versus planar. I like both. I think it's a mild insider joke, and yes, I do prefer dynamics, but it's not as aggressive as we make it out to be.
You're allowed to prefer things, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that being said, there's also like this weird solid state or measurements versus distortion.
Right, that's kind of what we're getting into. But so like on the subject of like some of the interactions that you have with people and forums, if you don't think that a thing is the best thing ever, even if you think it's good, then somehow you're under fire, right? Because you don't think it's the best thing ever, and everybody else, not everybody, but many of the other people who are in those threads are, they're only ever saying that it's the best thing ever. And it's as if they're afraid of, somebody saying, finding fault with it in some way, just because that was their experience. But so taking that and then kind of juxtaposing it with what you said about, the 1,000 people hear a thing and maybe you don't hear the thing, which side do you go on? It's a complicated question because in many cases we're not measuring what those people are talking about, or what I say people who are measuring things aren't necessarily measuring what those people are talking about. So it's trying to figure out how do you correlate those reports and those experiences to things that you can see. And in many cases, I don't think you can make that correlation. And that's the reason why I'm a subjectivist. Right? Like, I don't think it's not captured. It's just that the correlation isn't drawn as strongly as I would want it to be. So, I mean, that's it's something where I can see. It's just, again, this goes back to what some of the objectivists who I respect talk about, they say that
a little too objective, I think, sometimes.
Well, but some of the guys I look up to a lot, they also agree on things like, we should be more investigative and more open to people's experiences and use that, because the more scientific approach isn't to say, well, we can't measure it, therefore it doesn't exist, but rather, okay, what is this experience? What is the experience? And then how, use that as a hypothesis, right? That's the more, does it exist, or is it psychoacoustic? Is it sighted? Do these things count? Right?
And like, how does that factor in? Like, how do
and how? Yeah, exactly. So like, there's all kinds of stuff like that I think it's worth exploring more of. And there's a lot of fanaticism that errs on the wrong side of this, I think, and that's one of the
I think that's the thing, is you get the extremes of either end, right? And it's like then there's all these people in the middle that are going like, what the and that's and I always joke, that's always in any hobby or anything anyone's passionate about, you're gonna have that, right? So it's just tough. You just have to find your own way, and that's why I get upset sometimes is when you get the extremists coloring some of the people that are on the fringe that are kind of moving to one extreme or the other, and they color those people's opinions before they can actually experience that for themselves, and then they that's where I start getting like, oh, like don't do that. That's I don't know. That's my one of my peeves, but.
Somebody knows my background. What would Kant say about the objectivist-subjectivist argument? It's probably all normative.
Oh, I think this is a subject we should continue another day. That was expansive, man.
Yeah. That's even, and I can tell we have a bunch of objectivists in the chat. So
I just on that one, I don't want to suggest that. Like, I actually think that things aren't as subjective as we make it out to be. It's only that, like, all we can really be confident in right now is reporting our experiences for certain things,
which right, so it's turned into a subjective thing.
Yeah, but it's a matter of confidence in something, right? Like, it's probably like I think human hearing isn't actually subjective. No, there's the experiences are subjective.
Yes,
but human hearing itself is not it's something. So like this whole hobby, like, you can analyze it, in many different ways, right? But speaking as you're experiencing it, right? Speaking of it as an experience, you're giving almost like a phenomenological account. You're talking about what it is like to hear the thing, right? You're evaluating it not in terms of human hearing. You're evaluating in terms of your own experience, and that's kind of what we're doing. At least what I'm. That's my.
That's my perspective too. It's like it's all about the experiences to me, and that's why I always say people too, or everyone's on their own unique audio or just path in life in general, right? We're all on our individual experiences and and we're all like, you think of it like parallel universes, right? If each individual person is a parallel universe, then we're all just but they're all unique.
But I would never join a Discord that would have me as a member. I would never want to be part of a club that would have me as its member.
Oh geez. I don't think he's here today there, Chris. He did create an account to play in some of our shows though. But anyways, I think that's a tough one. And then I also think that the objectivist side, I don't really objectivist versus subjectivist sides on either side of that. I think of this. There's something I was thinking about this a while back. I think of frequency range as the 2D part of a 3D story.
I like that.
Right? Like and someone mentioned it in the forum too. Like there's like this.
Wait, but does that mean that CSD is 3D story?
Potentially. Like I'm only saying
like it's still just part of the 2D story.
Yeah, it's like part of the. I mean, it could be like that next layer of the 3D, but like you know what I mean. Like you want to take it in layers or something. But I think that's something like and it could be proven wrong. I mean, I'm just saying, like, as of right now though, that is the it's a little people.
You just have like a jar of peanut butter there. You just like
so one of my since a little kid, peanut butter and honey, and I stir it up and I eat it by the spoonful. Yeah, I know.
That's how you grew so big and strong.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, like I think that's. Go ahead, Chrono. What'd you say?
That I just have some croissants that are waiting for me.
Oh, croissants.
Yeah,
delicious. But yeah, so I think that's one of my takes on the 2D of a 3D story, right? Like there's so much more, like not so much more, but there's just more to it than just that. Like there's
more to what it is like to
experience the thing that is being measured.
Yeah. Okay, so let's probably wrap it up there. But final thoughts from all of us. Chrono. I'll let Chrono go. Yeah.
The storm. It was very unfortunate. Don't go fly a kite. The lightning storm
with a key. Definitely don't do it with a key attached.
But wrap up. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys. It was very fun as per usual.
Always fun.
I just wanted to know on like Chrono is in a unique position right now because he's heard now the HD 600 and 650 on a high-end headphone amp and one that I don't know, like does that I wanted to ask, like, does that change your or influence your perspective on like this whole thing about inexpensive good measuring amps versus like the high-end stuff? Or not change, I guess, but does it influence your perspective on that?
Look, if I could if I had, the only thing that's changed is that if I had to say which one I would prefer to listen to, it'd be the high end one. I'm sorry to say it, but
You're
does it
sorry?
make-
You mean
Case
you're-
closed.
Yeah.
does it make anything else sound bad? No, of course not. Everything else that I've heard so far still sounds great. I still love the Element just as much as I did,
I plan
the
on
week
buying
before.
one now. Someone posted about it.
Dude, you're gonna love it. I'm telling you.
I loved it. I
tried
had
next-
one, man. I
Yeah, but is the Element 1 and the Element 2 is very, very different sounding. I promise you. But it still sounds just as great. Can you rephrase? Is there a way to rephrase the question? Because I don't know. I don't even know how to answer this properly.
Well, it's more. I'm interested in your
take
perspective because you just had that experience
Mm-hmm.
of hearing the crazy high end thing for the first time,
Yeah.
right? So, and with headphones that scale really well.
Well,
And,
with the Clear, I heard virtually no difference, which is it was actually kind of a little disappointing, I would say, but understandable.
Mhm.
So
Low impedance.
yep. But I don't know what else to say. It's just it was just the 600 scale myth proven. I mean, I'm gonna be very honest. I used to think that was a bit of a meme or some way for people to apologize for the 600 or 650 because they want to justify. And it does scale, and it does scale very significantly, way more than I ever could have expected. But that's all I really drew from it.
Yeah. But see, and this is one of those things that it's like a lot of the people in communities who are kind of like, they're poo-pooing the really expensive stuff as like, rip-offs and snake oil and whatnot. But in these cases, I'm sure there is that stuff too, right?
Yeah,
but like,
of course.
But like the scaling does exist. There is, some when you actually do experience it. That's kind of why I'm fascinated by Chrono's take here, because he's just
and there were some comments in the HD600 video saying that the scaling was a meme. I was like, look, man, I really believed that too until I heard it.
Wait until you try it. Right?
It's one of those things. Like, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this a lot of stuff it should be. I think we're all very fortunate here that we get to try a lot of different things, right? And so it's just like, instead of just going by what somebody says online, and I know it's not always easy to come by this stuff. And again, we've just been very fortunate to all have this opportunity to listen to this stuff. It's just don't knock it till you try it, man. And don't knock somebody else's opinion as well. It's like, just,
take it for what it is. That's someone
have
else's
some
opinion.
faith,
Yeah.
All that is left is tubes. You're right.
True story.
That's the next step.
Actually, that's actually something very funny, right? I was talking to somebody else about this, and if you look at all like the people that've been in the audiophile realm for a long time, what do they all end up with? Like majority, tubes.
Purple cables
and tubes. But no, like it's funny. Like I was talking to a bunch of people that've been in the hobby forever, and like it's like a majority of them end up with tube amps as like their primary listening setup. So
yeah.
I mean, take that for what it is too. So it's kind of funny too. All the people that come into the hobby, they all start with like, oh, it measures perfectly great, and it's a $200 deck amp. And then as they progress, it seems like, oh, and then they slowly...
Well, I think that's because over time you develop your sort of preference, right? It changes. So like mine's change, and you end up at first. I think we all seek what's most impressive. We start going towards most impressive. We think is the most clean, neutral, whatever, and then we end up with what we really believe is the most enjoyable.
Mm. Right. There's getting it right, and then there's getting what I like, and those aren't two necessarily the same thing.
Yeah, they're not. Also true.
I mean, there's things that get it right and are
for sure.
Of course. But you're never gonna get a good response out of a measurement of a tube amp. It's just not possible.
Yeah. This is a case of necessary and sufficient conditions. The one person there's one person in the chat who will get that. But I guess I was going to say about the clear and the phonitor. I tend to agree with the low impedance stuff, but I also find that the clear and a lot of those, like, let's say highly detailed but low impedance headphones, they do change a lot. Like I said, change a lot more, but they do. The difference I find is quite strong with the DAC. I noticed that more in many cases than the difference in the amplifier. And it used to be the other way around, but that's because I was using higher impedance headphones. So I think really that, like, to me is kind of I don't know if it's a necessary thing, but it's a trend that I see. where highly revealing, also like with the HE1000 SE and stuff like that, highly revealing or highly detailed headphones that might not be high impedance, they still do change, and they still do scale. It's just that they don't scale the same way as high impedance headphones do off of amplifiers. That's something I've noticed as well.
Yeah.
And sorry, yeah, my final thought is yeah, that basically. And I love the LCD XC. That's my final thought.
Final thought for the show. I think mine is I think go out and experience. Don't let other people color your experiences. That's my final thought. Go forth and do your own experience. And do your best to find it for yourself and see what it is for yourself. If you can get the opportunity to try something, try it.
But still learn things and keep an open mind.
Constantly be learning. That's the other thing.
Keep an open mind.
Look, if you
That's how you
stop
eventually
learning,
move into EQ.
then what's the point, right? That's one of my biggest things. If you stop learning, what's the point? Like, you should be constantly learning and constantly upgrading your thoughts and feelings about things. And you should be able to change your mind. I think that's the other thing. Don't hold someone accountable for changing their mind. That means they've been enlightened to something else, or they've like there's something that came along and made them change their mind. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Well, not always. Not always. But like, let people have a change of heart or a change of mind. Like, that's another thing, big takeaway for me. Yeah. And don't take it seriously. That's the other thing. Fuck, it's a hobby, for crying out loud. We're all here to enjoy music. Let's have fun.
Have fun with
music.
it.
Yeah. So.
Yep. On that note, I do want to announce that we'll be having a live stream with Head Audio, and they will on September 24th, and they will be giving away a headphone, and we're also going to be giving away an amplifier with it. We haven't decided yet which amplifier, because we want to make sure that it's like the right system to power it, because that's an example of something that doesn't do very well with the Magni Heresy or
you need
L30.
Yeah,
it's a special case. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a special case.
Sorry,
so
I'm doing my best camera conspiracies.
No, it's you gotta. Yeah. Is there a squirrel nearby? But yeah. So yeah. Stay tuned for that. I'll be posting a video here shortly with a link in the description for a sign-up sheet, so you guys can sign up for the giveaway. Just stay tuned for that, and we'll be giving more information shortly.
And once that goes live, I'll post it into HeadFi too, and into the forum and stuff.
Wicked. Yep. Anyways, that does it for us, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Sayonara.